Kelly, we're getting ready to tackle some more spring creek cutthroats. And it's now later in the afternoon than in the morning. And I've got one of your triple wings here. And I'm going to give that a try because the mahoganies are still out. And they actually hatched early this morning. And I think there might still be some spinners around. May have to try that, your sunk one, but this triple wing's interesting. Where'd you come up with that?
Well, it's actually not my pattern. I helped, Dave Ellis developed it. We kind of, he's a guy from my hometown there. And what it was is he started noticing the, how broad the wing was on a spinner. In some instances, like a trico and some of the mahoganies, it can be as much as 70% of the, if you do a black and white silhouette, you'll see where the wing comes into the abdomen. It's just, there's a lot more than the traditional 5 or 10% wing that we show. And started playing with different ideas, and Dave ended up perfecting this one, and it's a triple wing. It's also an umpha pattern. It's been very successful for him with that. And it's just what it's doing is showing the real silhouette of a, the outline of a mayfly's wing when it's on the water.
Well, I'm going to go give it a try, but why don't you show us how it's tied?
Well, the next one we're going to do is the triple wing spinner. This was really a revolutionary fly as far as spinner design was. It's the first one to really show the entire silhouette of the wing. And it's really one of the most simple flies to tie, but it's also one of the most problematic just to get all 3 wings in. And hopefully I can show you a little trick to get through it. But first thing we're going to do is same as we did for the other spinner, for the hackling spinner, we're going to start the thread right dead in the middle of the hook so we know where to start our first wing. Then we're just going to slide back here and do a traditional spinner with the split tails. Just a little piece of rusty dubbing. I'm still using the same thing I was using for the other ones. It's just super fine dubbing. And I'm going to use a microfibet tail. I'm going to use the hook shank for the length so we know exactly how long we want the tails. And when you tie this in, start right at the front of where your thread ended, right in the middle of the hook. Start moving back. As you move back, take a good look at that to make sure it's the right length. If it's not, right now, by grabbing both ends of the material, adjust it. These look pretty good. So I'm going to move back here to right in front of the ball of dubbing and split the tails. Get a hold of equal numbers on each side and just hold on to one and they'll split nicely around that little ball. Then we're just going to dub back forward here. Again, with all spinners, the abdomen is thinner than it is with a dun, so resist the temptation to fill this thread up like you would if you were tying a dun, and keep your abdomen just a little bit thinner than you on your traditional dry flies, on your duns. And just a nice little smooth amount of superfine. If you were tying a female spinner, when you use the little ball of dubbing to split the tails, that's where you would put in a yellow or orange egg sac. It's just dubbing. That's all you need. It's just a little bit of dubbing, and tie that in and make an egg sac underneath there. If you've got a stray, just look for it now. If you don't, if you actually wanted to go back and pull one out, you could still unwrap your body and go back to it if you wanted to. So now comes the problem with the triple wing, is getting 3 sets of different wings tied in at once. And what I'm tying with is high-vis material. It's really light refractive. It's a little stiffer than Z-line. You know, you can use whatever you're comfortable using, but I've used this since we began tying it, and I don't know how to explain how much to use here. It's like 20 fibers maybe, I don't know. But it's, each one is individually going to build the bulk, so I don't know what to use for a reference, but 20 fibers roughly. And we're simply going to go in and we're going to tie in the first wing, one wrap over top of it, one wrap back. So you got a figure 8 here. Tighten this up, hold it, cinch it down, move forward. And each one of these is going to be relatively long, because when we have to go back through and dub this, it's easier to get a hold of these if they're longer. But I can assure you that I have not been able to find a way to make this totally painless. It's kind of hard to get them all in there without catching a few of the fibers. This fly is also an Umpqua production fly, so if you can buy them in most of the shops in the U.S. for reference, you know, to see them. So you've got 3 different wings here. I'm going to go through trying to get each one as you come through them without getting the hackle or the material in here. And again, I haven't found a way to make this painless, but so we've got 3 sets of wings tied in now. Now we're going to take our dubbing, and again, the proportions of a mayfly spinner are different than a dun, and because the thorax is generally roughly a third bigger than the abdomen, it helps to build this up, especially in your smaller flies like tricos. When you look at a trico, its abdomen and thorax, the difference almost looks twice. And because there's such a distinct color change between the olive or the pale white and the black thorax, it even makes it look bigger. So you want to make sure that you keep your proportions pretty clean here, and maybe a third to half again bigger is the thorax than the abdomen. And because this wing material is here, it's pretty easy to build up. So I'm going to get behind to put the glasses on for this to keep it clean here. I'm going to go in and I'm going to separate this first wing off from the second, and I'm going to build right between those. And again, I'm just going to figure 8 this, and I'm going to try to build that up a little bit. Then I'm going to grab the second one. Same thing, just try to separate between the second and the third. And I'm just trying to build it. If you get a hold, if you keep them separated like this, and you pull them right back, then you can go through, get the front one. Once you've got those wraps between them, it's easier to come forward and separate them after you get the dubbing in there. I'm going to go for just a little bit thicker thorax here. So make one more turn back towards the back hook. What I don't want to have happen here is have a lot of separation between the wings. And same as we did on the other way, if you pull them away from each other, you're pretty clean there. Okay, right there. Finish your head off with a little whip finish. Relatively painless. Now we just want to make sure that we don't have a lot of the wing material tied in underneath. Just take your scissors and pick through it. And then it's just a matter of shaping. And the true beauty of the triple wing spinner is that the back wing is very short, and so it stabilizes. And take a single cut right towards the tail. All right, I'm aiming my scissors at an angle from where the tail and the abdomen meet. I'm making one cut. Make sure you don't cut your tails off. I've done that before. Turn it over, do the same thing. One cut. And you should have a pretty fair shape to the wing right now without doing much else. And just build the shape that you're looking for. What you can see is that the back wings of this are the very shortest wings. And if you look at a natural, you'll see that the wing generally goes right back to the abdomen. So I'm going to cut this where the back part of the wing, and you can feather this stuff out a little bit. So I've got it still kind of tight. You can pick that out. And I like to trim these from the bottom, looking at them from the bottom instead of trimming from the top, because then I'm right back to the abdomen. So I'm going to cut this where the back part of the wing, and you can feather this stuff out a little bit. So I've got it still kind of tight. You can pick that out. And I like to trim these from the bottom, looking at them from the bottom instead of trimming from the top, because then I'm seeing what the trout's seeing. But with this fly, I can't always do it all from the bottom. I have to look both sides here. With this fly, you've got an extremely durable wing, because the short fibers here have a tendency not to collapse. If you did it all one length, when you'll see if you do a polywing spinners that are all one length, they have a tendency to want to fold back towards the tails when you cast them. And especially after you've caught a fish or two on one, they have a tendency to just fold over and be collapsed. And this fly, it's virtually impossible to hurt the wing. I mean, it'll fish the same until the fly is totally saturated. But the wing shape will never change. But the beauty of this is you can trim this thing out to exactly the shape you want. Get these stragglers out of here. And that's pretty much it right there. But if you look at this fly, you'll see that it's the first fly to address the fact that when you look at a natural, it's almost, from the underside, it's almost all wing. It's not the traditional 10 or 15% that you see on like a biot spinner or something like that. Not that those flies don't work, it's just that this is a little bit more accurate representation. Got one extra tail there I just nipped off. This is just a more accurate representation of the natural. You know, when you look at a traditional spinner, it's only got one of the three wings that's on this fly. And when you look at this from the underside, you can see, just like the natural, that 50% or more of it is wing. And it's just incredibly buoyant, because the fly doesn't want to, you know, it's hard to get those wings to sink, so it's really hard to put one of these underwater, and it floats forever. But as you can see, it's got the most natural wing silhouette that you could possibly achieve if you were, you know, in any other fly. And once you get through that kind of painful wrapping through the wings, it's not